These are the ND1s. This was my very first collaboration where Nix was actually one of our very first sponsors, if not our first sponsor for like a cut in half video. And some of those early videos we did with Nix have millions and millions of views now because it was one of the first times people really saw what's inside these Pacific Northwest boots that makes them so different, so much more beefy, so much more rugged and just overbuilt compared to any other boot on the market. They shipped me the Indestructible Boot. I can't remember whose idea it was. They're like, we're gonna make you the beefiest, biggest boot, most overbuilt, as many features and things rolled into one, just to show you what Nix can do. And so they made that for me. We just shot it, we destroyed it, blew it up, all sorts of different things just to run the tests on it. And by the end of it, I was like, I want that boot, but just a little bit more consumable. I don't need thigh-high boots with a steel toe and all this different stuff. I just want something that is pushing the limits of an indestructible boot that you could actually still wear on a regular basis. And now it's been almost 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and this pair is my buddy Jay's, who's from the original run. I think he's one of the very first people to get a pair, and he's been wearing them not every day, but a lot for the past 4 or 5 years. So we're gonna go through every single layer of this and compare and contrast a brand new pair and compare it to the well-worn pair and my personal pair that we cut in half for the relaunch that's happening today. Actually, it's launching right now. Kind of show you how it ages, if you work in it, what's it look like, how does this actually start here and end here, what works, what doesn't work, where's the wear spots, just dissect this whole thing to really figure out if we actually did pull off making the most indestructible boot that you can still wear basically every single day. So many people think that anything you buy off Amazon is the exact same quality you get either handmade or from a reputable company or anywhere else, and yet we still fall for it, including me when I first started buying these standing desks for the employees, and I bought a bunch off Amazon and they're complete garbage. They're like particle board, they're wobbly, they're all over the place, they stop working on one side and it gets all herky-jerky, they're terrible. Versus FlexiSpot, we've got plenty of FlexiSpots because they've sponsored enough videos that the majority of our desks for all the editors and everyone in the shop, we probably have 8 FlexiSpot desks. And there's a difference because they have a 540-pound static capacity. They've got a whole fleet of accessories, and one of the biggest things is they're backed by a 15-year warranty. And FlexiSpot is one of the cool brands that actually backs what they do, and they tell us to test it. So here's the wobble test to show you the difference between these, like this desk, regular desk. Number 2 is the water test, and as you can see, it's not just strong lifting up, it's very gentle. You're not shaking that cup all over the place. The different legs aren't binding and popping all over the place. It's nice and smooth, nice and slow. And the third one, which I honestly didn't think was actually gonna work, they say to stand a coin on its edge and lift the desk. So if you're looking to improve your desk or even just your general working environment, check out FlexiSpot. I'd get yourself one of those E7 Plus standing desks. It's the 4-leg versions. You could literally lay on it and it would lift you up because the 2-leg versions do it, as you can see from this B-roll. And if you use my code YTE7P50, you get an extra $50 off the E7 Pro, E7L, or E7 Plus standing desk. So thanks again to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. Check them out, the links in my description. So what is this boot? Well, the brand is Anvil X Nix. The style is the ND1, and this is the ND1 relaunch. We'll put a little tag disclaimer, make sure the people that bought the very first batch of ND1s still have the OG ND1s, and they can differentiate them from the relaunches. They weigh 3 pounds, so ridiculously heavy. You know, work boots are up to about 2 pounds and under. Right off the bat, it goes to show you how heavy and overbuilt these are. Price of the ND1s are $650. They're made in Spokane, Washington, USA. And the way we position this product is exactly what I said in the intro. We just try to make the most indestructible boot that you can wear regularly. You know, beef everything up so much, you get all the protection, all the durability, and make all the felt points redundant while still making them wearable. And so that's another thing we're gonna look at. Did these end up being that wearable? Did we overdo it? Did we underdo it? Is there room for improvement for the ND5 that launches in July? That's what we're gonna find out. So let's start looking at leather first. This was something that people were really upset at when we launched this product, and it's not like people don't get upset at every single collaboration. Anytime we do anything, there's a group of people that are upset, but they really had a sticking point with the two-toning. Like, you can't two-tone a boot, that's a faux pas. Like, no, like who would ever wanna wear 2 colors on a boot? Like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I like it. I like the pop of color. And the whole concept with this was the alignment patch is your pop of color, but it's on the inside of the boot. For linemen, when they're climbing the big poles, they need a little redundant patch here so you don't wear through that because you've got your gaffs and your spikes on, and that's where you're gonna be making contact with the pole or the tree or whatever else you're doing, climbing up poles in boots. Since it was only on the inside, I was like, it's perfect because at every step you make, you'll see just a little pop of color, and it's on the inside, and so from the outside, it just looks like a regular boot. But once you see that little pop of color, it kind of brings it together for me. But really, like, the hidden fun of this leather and the combination was once you started wearing this brown wax flesh, those more red and brown undertones start showing through. And so over time, you eventually get to a point where once you're really, really broken in, it kind of just looks like it's a flesh out versus a grain leather. You know, you can still tell it's red, but compare these two. This, pretty high contrast. This, most people wouldn't even notice that it's that much of a different color. And the cool thing with this is by the time you're watching this, we've re-waxed and cleaned up and restored J's just from the outside, didn't really touch anything. And it just goes to show you how fun this brown wax flesh is. You can restore it, you can condition it. It's a really cool leather. And so what are the specs on this leather? Well, it's a Chrome XL from Horween. It's a flesh out, so they wax the flesh to make it nice and smooth. It's 2.5 millimeters thick. So right in that boot thickness range, you usually see boots from 2 up to like 3 for really thick work leather. With this more casual leather, that's something we maybe could have improved, made it really bulky and big, but I like how soft this leather is. And for me, the wearability aspect is important for this too, because with all these layers, especially with the toe cap being a true toe cap, that's like 5 to 6 millimeters of leather just over your toe. Same with the lineman patch, but all through these areas where there's tons of leather built up, it can be really heavy with the like 3 millimeter leather. So that is a point that people could say like, it's not that indestructible, but I think it's worth the trade-off for the comfort. And I love this leather. It smells good, it ages beautifully. I love Horween. And clearly it lasted really, really well. You can see these high wear spots because Jay works in these, he does construction in these, he does his paragliding in these, he's hiking in these. Jay's all over the place all the time doing all sorts of stuff that is really hard on boots and uniquely wears boots. And you can see in the toe here, it's all napped up there. It's all scratched up. None of the threads worn through. You can see he's like actually using these boots because on the back here, you can see how much it's been scratched and scarred. And so from the leather alone, is there any fail points in this whatsoever? Is there anywhere that it looks like it's gonna fail prematurely? Is there any spots that I have concerns about? Not really. Even like some of my concerns with the overlapping stitching in some of these high wear areas are still totally fine. Yeah, I really don't see anything wrong with the upper leather. As far as I'm concerned, still a perfect leather choice. And that's part of the reason why people want this color combination in all the Indy series is because it is a really beautiful aging process that starts high contrast and ends up kind of melting together. Love it. And as for the test results, we did the burn test. All those oils worked into this, makes it really flame resistant. And the fact that it's a flesh out makes it burn really slowly because you're burning like little fibers instead of that solid grain. We did the puncture test, performed pretty well. Chrome XL's not the most puncture resistant leather, but multiple layers of it, very puncture resistant. Looked at the macro shot, plenty of grain left in it. And we even did the waterproof test. And that's one flaw with having this many panels overlapping and stitching is all these stitches are a potential leak point. And so it isn't the most waterproof, but there's ways around it. You could seam seal them and you could put some wax over top, but that is another little point that people could say, it's not the most indestructible wearable boot. Then if you look at the inside, it's pretty unlined all through the boot except for in the vamp, just like your traditional heritage boots. And without a lining, it makes it a little bit easier to break in. It's more breathable. Because it's a flesh out, you don't have the issue with the fibers getting into your socks. I don't care about that. But that's part of the reason why you have a lining in a boot. But for a work boot, this actually kind of solves that problem without having to have a lining because it's the grain side in. So there's no fibers to actually get on your socks. So pretty simple lining, nothing too crazy. And then the footbed obviously is like the classic Nick's way of doing it. A full length veg tan insole, like 5 to 6 millimeters thick, a little bit of a sock liner to the heel just to cover those little clinch nails just in case, just like a little high spot kind of levels it out. He's throwing a boot breaker in there just to give it a little bit of extra squish because those hard insoles can be really tough to break in, but especially over the long term, even though it's contoured to your foot, and I can, if I reach in here, I can feel Jay's footprint in here. And that's why foam is comfortable because it compresses in real time to the shape of your foot, giving you like a custom footprint all day, every day. But at the end of the day, standing on hard leather is never gonna be as soft as like a soft, squishy foam. So once again, another little point you could point to, but just throw a little boot breaker in there. It's not fully a shameless plug, but like you can put any insole in there, give it just a little bit more squish. As for the sole construction, in the later Indy series, we started moving towards the 360 stitch down with like the foam midsole and the rubber midsole. This is more like the original old school full leather construction that Nick's is really known for because you got that full length veg tan midsole, a full veg tan heel stack, and a 270-degree stitch down construction with a nailed heel. And so that's where you start to see with these boots, some of the first videos that we did, I was mentioning it has like millions of views. It was us just tearing apart one of their boots and be like, how many nails are in here? And by the end of the video, I was like, there's like 80 nails per boot. That's like over 150 nails in a pair of boots. And those nails are used to mechanically fasten all those layers together to make it as strong as possible. And so the old school way of doing it that they've been doing for, I don't know, 200 years is sending nails into the boot and all through the leather, and they hit the bottom of the last, which usually has a steel plate on it, and it causes the point of the nail to clinch over, which basically grips all that leather and holds it all together. So that's why, part of the reason why these things are 3 pounds with all that heavy duty leather. And if I feel on the inside of here, is there any nails poking out? Is there anything going wrong on the inside? I don't feel any nails. But one thing that is very different actually, now that I'm feeling on the inside, is this is back in the era when Nix was doing the Blake Rapid Stitch on the inside, where you've got the insole layer, and then that underneath that's the midsole layer, and they used to run a stitch line on the inside. Now, obviously, it was more secure, it was more durable, but the problem is you're standing on that thread all day. And the Pacific Northwest brands kind of collectively came to the decision that it's like, it's not even worth it. Like, rarely has anyone ever needed to have that part fixed. Like, let's just glue it in. So that is something that has changed, that some people might be like, it's less durable, but once again, you're trading durability for comfort. I honestly would rather not have the Blake stitch on the inside. So I was totally fine with it, but it is something they've changed recently. As for the outsole, this is one of the more popular outsoles for really rugged, beefy boots. This is that Vibram V100. You can see the little screws that Nix puts into the boots. They're backing out a little bit, so Jay could come in and tighten these down, but he's not missing any screws. He's definitely worn through some of the outsole. Even in the heel, you can see it's worn down quite a bit through here, but nothing catastrophic going on here. There's no obvious fail points. The heel stack looks good. The bond between the layers and the toe looks good. But you can see he's definitely worn it down a decent amount. And there's a reason why this outsole is so popular, because it's pretty tough. It's like a 70 to 75 Choret, so it's really hard, but it's also grippy because it is a rubber. But more importantly, you've got all these heavy duty lugs that are gripping the ground, gripping the dirt and rocks. That's gonna give you more traction than having like a soft, squishy rubber, because you combine the grip of the rubber and the lugs with the durability of that hard rubber, and that's how you get hardly any wear over like 4 or 5 years worth of wears on this outsole. And it's like I said, he's not wearing it every single day, but he wears them enough that he's wearing down the outsole. But you can see why it's such a popular choice. So from the outside, everything looks good. Eyelets are staying in, the leather's performing perfectly. No fail spots in the leather, no fail spots in the stitching, no fail spots in the insole. Obviously some differences in those little things we highlighted, but so far, there's nothing wrong with this boot anywhere. So now, let's see what's on the inside. And I'll show you the rest of the layers and why these are 3 pounds and why they're so beefy and how they slowly form to your foot. Start off looking like baby seals and end up looking like this, beautifully worn in, perfectly contoured to Jay's feet looking boot. Three, two, one. Okay. We got them cut apart for probably the coolest video I've ever done. We literally built a 15-foot guillotine with a 150-pound blade just to cut these in half. So instead of ruining Jay's ND1s, decided just to use that old school footage, show you guys that again. And why waste Jay's boots when we already got one cut in half? AKA Jay wouldn't let me cut them. So if you do want a pair of these, check them out below. Super limited quantities. We brought it back because it's the ND5 launch this year. It's the 5 years of doing the Indy series, our longest running collaboration, our very first collaboration. And so it's just kind of a little reunion tour of the Indies. So next month's gonna be the Indy 2, month after that, 3, the next month, the Indy 4, and then July is the release of the Indy 5. And if you're watching this after they're gone, sign up for the email list below. We might be able to convince Nix to bring some back from time to time, but it literally took 5 years to really bring back a decent enough batch that people can get them. And if you're on the email list, you get early access to guarantee a pair, as close to guaranteeing a pair as you can anyway. So let's see what's inside. You can see before I cut these in half, I actually got a good amount of wear in them. It's the worst thing about the collaborations is I have to wear them and then test them. And I don't want to cut a brand new pair because you get a lot of information from a worn pair, especially for a collaboration. So every time I look at these again, I'm like, oh, I wish I hadn't cut these. Because this is my pair. I haven't even started breaking them in yet. So how does it look on the inside? Look at all that leather. So this is where you get that really heavy duty boot that still is really comfortable, because you don't have a really heavy shank in here. You don't have a bunch of synthetic materials. It's just layer upon layer upon layer of hard veg tan leather that will compress the shape of your foot, that will slowly mold and shape to your toe and flatten down in the ball of your foot, give you some heel profile, break. Look how nice the inside of this looks too, that patina on that grain leather on the inside. And the cool thing is this does break into the shape of your foot in every way. The heel will kind of compress, the arch will contour to your arch to give you enough arch support that's not hurting you, but not over compressing it because it's these heavy duty layers. And then you have that full length veg tan insole, that veg tan shank, that veg tan midsole. And you can even see some of these nails that are popping through here and there, these little clinch nails that I was telling you about. You can see the true double toe cap. They see that lining, that Blake Rapid stitch on the inside. You can see it sits right underneath the ball of your foot, underneath your big toe. And even the heel counter, you can see it's a big old slab of veg tan right there. And right here, where all these layers are lined up, you've got that like 1 to 1.5 millimeters of lining. You've got the 2.5 millimeters of upper leather. Then you've got the 2.5 to 3 millimeters of the 1964 leather. And then some of these spots right here, it's like another additional layer on top that's all tucked underneath. This is why these boots are so expensive, because you have to hand make every single layer. Each one of these is hand nailed in, hand placed. It's not like a giant machine factory that's doing all this. And these are hard materials. And so it takes highly skilled people to make this high quality of a product that's been used for decades for some of the hardest work in the world. And you look at this cross section, you compare it to your classic heritage boots from like $300 to $400. And that's where you start to see that big difference in just materials, and especially in weight and durability. So now after 5 years, did it work? Did this attempt to make as indestructible a boot that you can make while still making it wearable enough if you want to wear it every day, you can. You can work in it, you can wear it for style, versatile enough, but as close to indestructible that you almost can't wear it. And I think we did. I think we pulled it off. I think looking at Jay's pair, you look at all the outside materials, you look at the inside, you feel around on the inside, you see all the potential fail points, and nothing's really failed on them. And is this the most indestructible of the Indy series? That's the question I'm like asking myself right now, because I might do like, maybe for the lead up of the Indy 5, we'll do like a full breakdown of each of the Indy series and really rank like which one's the most durable, which one's the most comfortable, and just kind of look at the entirety of the Indy series on the whole. But there's just something about the original. There's something about this first ND1 that really just took what was already working for linemen, for construction workers, for like hiking, for loggers, for all these guys, and just taking everything that was already existing with Nicks and just applied it to one boot. And honestly, it might be still my favorite Indy boot. We're also gonna rank every single one of these after we do our re-review of them, recut them, all that stuff. So number one, we've only reviewed one, so ND1 right at the top. So if you do want a pair of the ND1s, limited quantities, might be the last time we drop them. It's hard to say. If you're watching this after they're sold out, get on that limited edition email list just in case, because this was fun to do. And it's valuable too. It's fun to come back into this and say, is there anything we want to change before we relaunch it? Before we launch the Indy 5, how did this go? Is there any fail points? Is there anything we want to adjust? Is there panels we want to move? And so thank you guys for watching this and let me kind of dissect this and go through it and really analyze this thing, because it's fun to do to your own designs, but it's also valuable for you guys to see what these are going to look like in 5 years, how they're going to wear, where your potential fail points are, how the whole boot and shoe is structured, so you can actually understand why these are some of the most popular heavy-duty work boots in the world, and what you need to look out for when buying a pair of these, because they are heavy-duty boots and they're not going to be easy to break in, and they're going to be tough, but that's part of the fun. So you got to kind of earn the right to wear these. You got to earn the comfort, and that's part of the excitement of this series is trying to ride that line between comfort and overbuilt, unique. That's the fun of the Indy series. So huge shout out to Nicks for letting me do this for the last 5 years with them and really pushing them, because out of any collaboration we've ever done with any brand, Nicks is the one that's pushing it the most every single year. Every single year we've been redesigning the Indy series, which is a huge endeavor. Most brands take an entire year in advance to plan stuff, then it launches the next year. And Nicks is just capable of knocking these things out like left and right, rapid prototyping, and still maintaining that Indy series ethos. So thank you guys for supporting this. Thanks to Nicks again for being willing to put up with this series for 5 years, because it is a tough thing to do, and especially the people that are actually making these at Nicks, because these are a huge pain to make for Nicks. And so if you do get a pair of these, don't be afraid to reach out to Nicks and thank the production crew, because they're really the ones that are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into all these Indy series boots, and they're not fun to make. So thank you guys. Huge shout out to the Nicks crew again. See ya. Yeah, you bet. How we